Hey guys, Justin with AmericanMuscle.com here in Dearborn, Michigan at the Proving Grounds to talk about Ford performance handling kits, and I get to put them to the test here at the track. All right guys, so we're in the facilities here on the Proving Grounds in Dearborn. I'm with Andy Branco. Andy, how you doing, sir?
Great, Justin. Great to have you here.
Great to meet you, sir. And you are a vehicle dynamics engineer. Explain to the guys at home what the heck that means.
Well, in a nutshell, I get to tune the different bars you see on this table, the springs, the dampers, shocks, and struts to make the car feel different, make it handle different, and hopefully make it faster.
We're gonna break down some of your handling kits here from Ford Performance because the question always remains, what kit is for me, what kit is different, and hopefully we're gonna explain that a little bit better today, correct?
Exactly, that's the number one question I get. I get a neighbor, a friend, or some associate will call me and saying, Andy, what kit should I buy? And I said, it really depends on what you're gonna do with the car.
Why don't we jump into number one right over here, which looks to be the simplest of them all, and that is the spring only kit, correct?
Yeah, exactly. This is our street spring kit. These springs were developed to work with production dampers and struts, so the customer doesn't end up having to change his dampers when he does a suspension upgrade. This kit is for a customer that would want the looks of lowering their car about 1 inch. They will get some handling benefits because a lot lower center of gravity and the spring rates are increased over production. Another thing to note, the jounce bumpers there too are also unique. They're a bit shorter because the car is lowered. So if you find yourself out at a racetrack and you're going around a corner and you were to engage that jounce bumper is going to give you a little bit more room before you start engaging the jounce bumper.
Gotcha. So at its simplest form, I mean, springs are the most cost-effective way to improve not only your handling, but appearance.
Yeah, exactly right. I think bang for the buck wise, they're the best value and it's the most simple upgrade.
For sure, and this can be used on a base car, but also in addition to a performance pack car, correct?
Yeah, this was when we did the development on this. We used anywhere from a base Mustang to a performance pack car.
Linear spring, progressive, what are we doing here?
Linear springs, like you'll see that we do have some different spring spacing and rear spring here, but essentially what this is to make sure that the spring has preload. So these essentially are only active when the car is up on a hoist. As soon as the car is down on the ground, all these coil springs will be in contact, and then you basically will go to the linear portion of the springs.
And in true Ford form, we've got an X spring, right? So you always like to name your springs. I feel, at least in my history with the Mustang and stuff, everything's P spring, K spring, and now we have the X spring.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the next generation for the S550. So these are your street springs.
Very cool. Yep. Well, let's move on down the line a little bit more because we have some more parts here with our next kit.
So our next kit is our street handling kit. And these are the same springs from our first kit, but what we're doing is pairing this with a lot of OEM components. You have your shocks and your struts, your dampers here on the far end of the table. All these are 2018 spec, so for the 15 to 17 customer, it's a nice upgrade, or anyone that has a base Mustang GT that didn't opt for the performance package Mustang.
Gotcha. So on the surface, I mean, what we're looking at here is essentially, if you've ordered a performance pack car, you're getting a majority of these components minus the springs here, right? This is the same OE, sway bar and damper set that you're getting on a performance pack.
Yeah, correct. So if you have a performance pack car like the one we see behind us, you really would just buy the X springs and you would get this combination.
Very cool. And what makes this, I guess, worthy of street performance, or what makes this maybe a little bit more geared towards street use?
It combines the X springs, which are a very good riding street spring kit, along with some really nice OEM suspension components. So not that you couldn't take this car to the racetrack, but if they already have a performance pack car or they're looking for a more significant upgrade, then we have some upgrades that we'll talk about next.
All right, Andy, so that brings us to our third kit. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this is all about?
Yeah, so this is our track handling kit. So now we're moving into a kit with many more unique parts.
On the surface, it looks pretty similar to the one we just talked about, really.
Yeah, so starting over from the one side, we have our strut modules. We still have the unique jounce bumpers that we talked about previously, but now they're installed for you. We have the Y front springs, which are higher rate springs. So you get the benefit of less pitch, less roll. The struts in particular here are uniquely tuned for these springs to take all the advantage of that.
Yeah, because a lot of times you can't just throw on a stiffer spring without adjusting for it with a damper.
Correct. So we'll take these apart, we'll revalve them, unique pistons, unique shims, springs, even though they look the same, they're dramatically different, and I think you'll find out later the car will drive dramatically different.
But let's talk about these guys, because I think even on the surface, visually, they appear a little bit larger, at least in diameter, and that's important. Why?
Yeah, so when we selected these, we basically took the package space that we had on the S550 Mustang, and we packaged the largest diameter inner roll bar that we could fit in the package. The one benefit is when, if you looked at two bars with a similar stiffness, the larger bar can have a thinner wall thickness, so it'll be more efficient for doing the same spring rate. It'll be able to do the same job, but it'll be lighter.
And these are adjustable, it looks like, right?
Yeah, exactly, and it's a good point. We'd recommend, you know, in a starting base configuration to start off in the soft position, which would be at the end of the link here. And then if you go to the track, you can make some changes on the fly.
So moving away down the line here to the toe links, and it looks like we've got spherical on both ends here, where that wasn't the case with our previous kit.
So on the base kit, we only had the one bearing. Here we have a spherical joint here on your inner and additional link, and we also have the spherical that you'd press into the knuckle. That gives you a really direct steering precision, really good feel.
I think a lot of guys hear spherical like, oh my gosh, that thing's gonna vibrate, the NVH. Is that something that you guys accounted for when coming up with this kit?
When we did the development of this kit, we would drive the cars 2 hours away to our local racetrack, drive around all day doing the development and drive back, and that was sort of our bogey test to make sure we didn't get our fillings knocked out on the way back and forth to the track.
Now to wrap this one up, I mean, who essentially is this kit gonna be for? Like a guy who has a performance pack, will he install this and see some benefits, or will he be like, oh, I already have a performance pack, I'm good?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because we have a lot of people that say that just exact fact. They said I already bought a performance pack. But like I said, when you start looking at these anti-roll bars, the dampers, the springs, all of this is very much uniquely tuned, and you'll see that later today when we drive the cars.
So performance pack guys, you can make your car better, and this is a good way to do so. Now, one question I always have too, especially now with the addition of the MagnaRide GTs, is spring compatibility. Now, would a MagnaRide guy watching this video be like, man, I really like what these guys are saying, can I put these springs on my MagnaRide car?
This kit is not compatible with MagnaRide. That is our next kit that we'll talk about next.
Let's check it out. So this, Andy, is for the MagnaRide guys, correct?
Yeah, we've had a lot of customer inquiries about MagnaRide now being available in the 2018 Mustang, and we've had a lot of those customers ask us, what do you have for my car? So this combines some of the things that we already talked about, has the track anti-roll bars, has a little bit different of a combination. We have our Y springs that we use from our track suspension kit, and it uses the W springs, because something that's unique about MagnaRide is it has handed rear coil springs.
So like the GT350, they're wound in opposite direction for the layman, right?
Correct, yeah, you have a left and a right hand wound spring. But most importantly is we have access to software.
That's ProCal tool. I usually do that to tune the Mustang for power.
Correct.
You telling me I can tune my suspension out to with that thing?
Exactly, right? So now you could actually go in there and change your actual MagnaRide calibration to allow it to be compatible with these hardware changes. If you change the springs, you change the anti-roll bars, the system's not quite expecting to see some of those feedbacks. And it is pretty robust, but in this case, putting these level parts on there, we felt it was appropriate to do a unique MagnaRide calibration.
That is really cool. So now tuning has come to your suspension as well, in the untraditional sense where you're actually doing it with a computer now, which is pretty far out, really, let's be honest, right?
I think in this day and age, there's nowhere a computer isn't prevalent anymore, right? So.
No, that's awesome. Well, this is a pretty easy who's it for, right? This is a MagnaRide guy who wants to, A, lower their car a little bit more, about what, 20 millimeters? Or
yeah,
about
20, 25 millimeters.
But more importantly, just take that awesome technology to the next level. Now with the cars with the sport and the track modes, does that calibration change each of those modes, or is that, how does that all work?
They have different, the standard mode, the sport mode, and the actual track mode. So each one of those would be changed to a different calibration that would have 3 different suspension calibrations.
This is great. I know talking about parts is all cool, but I like driving and talking about parts behind the wheel.
We're pretty excited to have you here to drive all 4 of these cars back to back.
We're at the proving grounds. We get to go drive 4 Prep 2018s. Let's do that. Let's stop talking and let's do that right now.
Yep.
Let's go. All right, Andy, so it looks like we got 4 beautiful 2018s all prepped for us here. Tell us about each car.
The first one here is going to be our MagnaRide car. Next to it, this is our track handling kit. The orange car here is our street suspension kit. And then lastly, the ruby red car is going to be our lowering spring.
Very cool. So we're going to kind of work away from mild to wild, I guess, if you will.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, let's hop in and give it a go. All right, cool. So Andy, here we go. We're on our inaugural lap. Let's talk about this track a little bit, because this is pretty wild. There's a lot of undulations, obviously a lot of turns, and we're taking it gingerly because kind of sprinkling, which isn't ideal for suspension testing, but we're making the most of it.
We got a little bit of mixed weather today, but yeah, this track, it's not really like a race track, right? But it's for you to feel the suspension of the car, feel how the steering of the car works.
Oh, yeah. Overall, I mean, the car feels, I'd say, relatively flat for a non-performance pack car with just lowering springs. I mean, it feels very confident, even, you know, like I said, despite the conditions, it feels pretty solid.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that was sort of what we're shooting for. We're shooting for a guy that really wants to look at lowering the car about an inch, that wants a milder performance improvement, but still something that's going to give the car a little flatter ride. You know, your center of gravity is a little lower, but you can really feel the difference of how you'll approach it. And I think as we work through the 4 cars here, you'll feel the differences and see how they're differently too.
Absolutely, and it should be noted this is the only automatic of the day, because I'm sure some people will say some things about that, but you know, it's good to test all kinds of cars, right? And kind of dip our toes in the water with the X-Spring. I really want to get to the next couple of cars.
So what did you think about driving in the proving grounds?
I mean, first time around, you guys probably at home are watching like, really? Come on, dude, step on it. You're at the proving grounds. However, Andy made it very clear too, this is not a racetrack. It's a controlled section of road that you can test the car. It's not trying to push the car to 11/10.
If we're really going to push it hard, we go to the racetrack.
And then we can't, you know, forget the obvious here. It's kind of raining, so we don't want to, you know, put one of these beautiful new 2018s into a guardrail and never get invited back. So we're going to be very smart out here. But up next, we got a performance pack car, but with your street suspension kit on. Let's hop in and give it another go.
Okay, excellent.
Let's do it. All right, Andy, so we're coming on to track right now in Mustang number 2. Again, this is essentially for the guys who have ordered a base Mustang, but maybe wanted some of the handling performance out of a performance pack car.
They get the benefits of lowering it, a little flatter ride.
Definitely feels like it already, absolutely. Even in the you know, the slower conditions of the rain, it feels like there's far less body roll compared to the last car we just drove.
Yeah, and that's what OEM performance pack parts working together with the springs.
No, but this is it's a nice step up because again, since it is offered on a quote-unquote, you know, street car or road-going car, the ride's very smooth. It's very compliant. Like it's still flat and it feels sporty in the rain, but it's not going to rattle your teeth out, as we were just saying. But even like brake dive, things like that, I've noticed were a little bit reduced with this kind of kit. Isn't that a function of the dampers maybe kind of having a little bit more valve?
Yeah, so, you know, in general, performance pack OEM parts will have a little bit more control. And then a lot of it is when you reduce your center of gravity, right? When you lower the car, just pitch and then the roll, everything it gets reduced.
Right, so this one's in the books. We'll pull this one on up and then we'll move on. All right, Mr. Andy, so street handling kit is in the books. Obviously a step up from the spring-only car, and as you expect, I mean, it definitely felt different. We have a performance pack car at work, and it felt very similar to that, and obviously with the different ride height, it felt great. Definitely a noticeable difference over the spring-only car. But this is the one I'm starting to get a little bit more excited about. This is the track handling kit. All the good stuff we felt in that car should feel even better in this one. Let's do it.
Let's go for a drive. So this one really is one of our highlight offerings for as far as pack. This suspension we developed right when the 2015 Mustang came out.
And already, like just going over those whoops earlier on where the car would undulate a little bit more, this one is, it's planted. Might be a little cliche in the handling world, but it really feels pretty sure of itself even in the wet conditions. Between the first car and this one, it's pretty staggering, the difference. It feels like it wants to be driven a little harder. It's amazing how just sure of itself it feels. Man, it's just even going through that long sweeper, it feels really good. I could drive this one all day. Next is the car that I'm kind of excited about too, because the MagnaRide stuff, to have you guys take it to the next level, that's what I'm really pumped about. Well, here we go. This is the 4th and final car, sir, and this is our MagnaRide equipped car. What we're gonna do now, we're kind of baseline the car in normal mode, so as we get to the straight here, we'll kick it up to, I guess, sport mode, and that'll, again, change the damper settings a little bit, correct?
You know, the MagnaRide system looks at the damper position on all 4 corners. It looks at your steering wheel input as well as some things from your stability control system, and it's controlling all those factors at every 4 corners.
I mean, already just going from, you know, normal to sport, it's noticeably firmer as far as through turns and flattening out and everything. And even over this section, which I feel, to me, is a good benchmark of how the car reacts with the pitch, like you were saying. I mean, there wasn't that sway that we experienced with the first couple of cars. We're barely scratching the surface of what this car can do, obviously, but even that being said, you can still get a good feel of the difference between the modes and, more importantly, the kits themselves. This feels like, I don't want to say like a race car, but I mean, it feels very, very much like it wants to be thrashed. It feels fantastic. Alrighty, sir. Well, last but not least, the MagnaRide equipped car was excellent. And again, I've driven these MagnaRide cars before, but to have your track sway bars, your track springs, and that that calibration, it really did wake up the already stout performer here. So all in all, man, this was like Candyland for me. Thank you so much for getting us out here behind the scenes at Ford Performance. And I think to the guys watching at home, they might not know the differences between the kits, and hopefully we help demonstrate that to them today.
It was awesome to have you out here, and it was great to be able to let you drive all the cars right in a row to really let you get a feel for all the cars.
In the meantime, guys, we hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, of course, for more cool content like this. And for all things Mustang, be right here at AmericanMuscle.com. Bonus content, get to hop in the FP350. Basically one of 50 cars. We get to hop in and go for a spin. Woo! That's a lot of fun. That's not a bad ride. This is a great send-off to an already fantastic day. Thanks again, guys, and I cannot stop smiling. Whew. I think it's time for a beer.